We need to amend the agenda this evening. I think you have a couple things, John?
Yeah, we had a couple of small, non-controversial items we can put under new business. One is to approve a lister error and omission, although it might not even qualify as that, but we do want you to be aware of a change to taxation on 5 parcels. And the other is a request to release a bond that was put up by Patricia Rose for some cutting of the sidewalk and a little bit of the road on Elm Street, now that that work's done.
Okay. A motion to amend the agenda.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We'll adopt the agenda as amended. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Select board meetings of September 18th. Any omissions, corrections?
Yeah, our vote didn't get recorded.
Uh-oh.
Oh, the vote at the end of executive session? That is something that I hope to discuss in executive session. It has to do with the fact that after the vote was taken, there was a reconsideration by a majority of the select board who wanted to discuss that topic again this evening.
Right, but shouldn't it still be recorded, so we have the process is all transparent?
It could be done, yes, and we can easily present you with redacted or amended minutes at the next meeting if you'd like.
I included it, so it was.
You did, and I deleted
He
it.
omitted it apparently.
I did include it.
No,
Okay.
I think it should be in there.
So,
I mean,
yeah,
we did it, it
that's-
should be
yeah,
in there.
What it should be.
Very well.
Yep.
We will take care of it.
So we'll approve them with that being added.
Well, I've got one
You got
thing.
one other thing?
Going back to, in my selectmen's comments, you're right. The water quality isn't requesting that the select board do it, it's just being discussed. So it isn't a formal request. The minutes read like it was a formal request that we have money and do the water testing. It's just being discussed that that's a possibility.
Okay. Okay, got it.
Is the way it reads, it
Yes.
sounds like it's, and it isn't, it's just a discussion.
And I can change that, and I think you probably ought to hold off on
So
signing
we'll hold
the
off
minutes,
on signing
since we're
these
gonna be
then. Since you're
changing
gonna make
them near the
changes,
signature
we'll-
page,
We'll
so,
hold those.
yeah.
We will hold those. Act on the orders.
Do you want to sign payroll? Oh.
We'll do the orders and we'll do payroll afterwards. Yeah, I'm gonna do, we'll sign the payroll,
You
relax.
said town manager.
No,
I had a
no, he
couple.
didn't.
No, he actually did say
Orders.
what he said, so.
Couple questions about.
Joe's
the
got a
order.
question.
Yeah, I'm sure he does, I do.
What's your question, Joe?
About $6,500 for radio equipment, apparently for their new cruiser. Now, and did they just throw away all the equipment that was in the other car and?
No, whatever could be reasonably used in the new cruiser is being used. They did get a $5,000 pledge from OMIA to help with installation of some newer equipment which the police department felt they needed for good operation of it.
So that will come off of the
Will be-
6+?
Yes, there'll be $5,000 that's available to equip the new cruiser from a pledge from OMIA.
It seems like when we talk about buying some of these vehicles, it winds up being quite a percentage higher when you get all said and done.
Indeed.
You know, we say it's gonna cost so much money to buy a truck or whatever, and then you get all this bells and whistles on it, and the price pretty near double.
Yep.
Probably not, but
Not double, but yes, I
It
it
understand.
pushes it up a lot.
Well,
That's equipment, but
Then I had another question here, the fire gear, 6 sets, 11,000. Now, this is what, equipment for the
no, it's turnout gear, Joe.
people?
Yeah, that's the actual coats,
So,
jackets.
if that's a long ways from being enough for the whole
Oh, gosh.
crew.
Is it
That's
just
only
for-
6 sets.
So what are they gonna do, keep buying more and more?
They
until
keep buying, it's on a rotating basis. Fire gear has a life, 10 years, people don't realize that.
10.
After 10 years, if somebody's hurting that gear, we're liable.
Yeah.
So you have to rotate, anybody's, on firefighting, actually, they have, their gear has to meet certain standards. That's all NFPA regulations now.
Right.
So now what do we do, about 6 sets a year? Is that how
We've
we're
been trying
set
to do
up?
5, 6 sets a year to keep it rotating, cause that's,
Okay.
well, you can see how expensive
Well,
it
it's
is.
expensive,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And sometimes toward the end
And
of the fiscal year, the chief will
we-
come back with a request to buy
To
some
even
more.
buy more,
Depending on how the
depending
budget's
on
looking.
how his budget goes. Some years, if you have, say you have 15,000 left over in your budget, that's the time that you go ahead and get 5, 6 more sets of gear to keep you going. Same with SCBA's. That's why last year, I think you noticed we spent $17,000-18,000 on new SCBA's, the air packs. Those have a life that, you know, after 10, 15 years, you toss them because they're not safe anymore. Unfortunately, it's expensive.
Another expenditure here was a few dollars less than $2,700 for a cylinder for a dump truck.
That's truck number 2. It's a tandem operated by Joshtown typically. There was some repairs done in-house by the highway crew of that, and these were parts associated with that. It's a new cylinder. Was that the Viking Civis?
Sives.
Sives, yeah.
It's
However you pronounce
sives.
it. It's a telescopic G4 130 cylinder that was purchased for that truck.
This truck, one of the oldest we got. I mean, them cylinders they don't fall apart very often, I don't think.
I do know it's truck 2. I do know Joshtown is the operator. I don't know how old of the tandems it is, whether it's the older tandem or the newer tandem.
I think it's the older one.
I think we have 2 tandems.
Yeah, we got
Yeah.
2. I think it's the older one.
Yeah.
I think that's the one he drives. Remember, he had the new truck and he didn't like it?
That's right.
He wanted to go back
That's
to the old
right.
one. Any other questions?
I guess the only thing I had, there's evidently a Winnipesaukee train tour or something. There's 2, one's for $17.50 and the other's for $18.86. Are they both for the same trip?
I don't know that, but I do know that rec programming always pays for itself through the tickets. So we might make an outlay to pay the provider of the entertainment, and then we're reimbursed through the ticket sales.
Okay.
Kinda too bad, we always talk about the expense, but we never talk about, well, this money has come back.
Randy,
Yeah.
Randy
So it
has heard
does.
enough of these questions to know
Oh,
that
yeah.
these programs need to sustain themselves.
Yeah, they do.
Well, I don't doubt that, but, is it possible that sometime they might
Yeah, that's
show
a-
us where,
You know, that's a good question. Every
you know,
now
I
and
mean,
then.
I don't mean to be picky, but I guess I am picky.
Every
Well,
now
no,
and
it
then-
is nice to see like 2 columns, like what's
Yeah.
going out and what's coming in, and so
Wow.
you get a
Well, yeah,
better
all,
idea.
all
you
we
know?
ever see is what goes
Yeah, yeah.
out.
Right, right. Every now and then, I think about the same thing about, receipt of grant monies or reimbursements for this, that, or the other. So I'll ask Pat if that's not gonna be a problem
Another-
to generate that. I'm
another-
interested myself.
Another good example is this, is quite often we see where the police department have written so many $1,000s worth of fines, but we never see what they actually added to the coffers from
Well, you
those.
do, when you look at the budget and the budget performance, because there's an annual statement in it, and in the annual town
Shows the
report,
income.
that's hard dollars. But you're right, these reports we get every now and then about how much was written in a particular month, that's what you're right, you don't
Right.
collect anything near
You
100%.
don't get it then anyways.
Right.
It's months and months and months before you see
But it
that.
would be
back.
nice to have once in a while, have an update on how that all boiled down.
Yeah.
Well, it
absolutely.
would, what would be nice is, and maybe, it wouldn't, I don't know, you don't need to do it every month, but
Right.
every 2 months, if we could get a balance sheet as we're going through the year to see how all of our budgets are,
Well, I'm sure she can
I'll
do
see,
that.
I'll see what the clerk and accountant can put together. That's a
way
good
we-
idea.
They can give you
because
budget
otherwise,
sheets.
we really have, I mean, I've been here 6, 7 months, whatever I've been, and I have no idea.
Other than
What's
the-
going on?
Other than the occasional comparing of notes with the auditor who tells
Right.
us how the end of the year looked,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Right.
But you're right, it'd be a good idea.
It'd be
to see
nice
the
just
income.
for us to know that.
Yeah,
And-
Cash flows,
Yeah.
Well, yeah, cash flow, yeah. Okay,
Out.
yeah.
so you got Vermont Department of Public Safety transfer station construction permit, yet there's, what's that for?
Is it the $116 one?
Yes.
That's the Department of Fire Safety. They need a permit to approve
For the state of
the
Vermont.
transfer station roof project. They have jurisdiction over that. They've
So
asked
it's like a building
for
permit.
a permit application to be sent in, and there's a fee based on the amount of cost that we're looking at. So it's, I think, $8 per 1,000, and it's a $14,000 project, so that equates to $160.
Okay, so this is different than, because there's emails that we didn't, no state permits were required to do
No
this.
A and R,
No
no
A&R.
Department, no Department of Environmental Conservation.
Says none of those,
Since
okay.
there's kind of a wetlands thing there, they agreed that since we're not digging into the ground, there's no impact from their point of view. So that was not a grant requirement. However, there is a zoning, local zoning permit,
Yeah,
which we will discuss, as well as this one for fire safety.
okay.
Any other questions?
Hopefully this won't delay it so they can't get the
Well, I'll
work
do my
done.
best to goose it along. We've already gotten the permit signed that we've posted early this week, so that's 15 days. And I'll be following up with fire safety to let them know that we'd like to get this done.
And I guess I'll ask while we're signing that, you've got magnesium chloride and sodium chloride. What are those? I know what they're used for, but why two different?
Well, they're both used in that innovative solutions treatment that the highway crew does. They kind of mix both the road salt with one of those products, and they apply it to dirt roads for the other project to keep dust down. And that's the charge we get from the supplier of the material that we buy. to
Oh,
treat-
so
to
so
treat.
this is for this, well, roads this,
Yeah, one is dust
roads this
control.
summer and one is for
Winter.
That's
this
right.
winter. Okay, that's why, yeah, okay.
Any question on tonight's orders? No.
That one too.
Oh.
Roll. Town manager's report.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. On Whipple Hollow Road and West Creek Road, Markowski Excavating wrapped up its main work on Whipple Hollow Road between the railroad trestle at the intersection with West Creek Road to the east and Dido's Dip to the west on Friday, September 20th. The following week, they prepared for paving on both Whipple Hollow and West Creek roads by rolling those roads again and doing some further prep. The town's paving contractor, DNF Paving out of Middlebury, arrived in town late Monday the 30th and began work on Tuesday the 1st, that's yesterday. As of about 4 o'clock, when I took a look this afternoon, they seem to have at least put a coat or two on about 70% of the Whipple Hollow project. They're now, we're on the far side of the Omea West entrance, and I imagine that they will finish, at least with those base coats, tomorrow. A lot of this is weather dependent. They're reluctant to put the top coat down in rainy weather. so they may move on and start the base of West Creek Road, depending again on the weather. The highway crew did some work to widen an area of potential truck conflict at West Creek Road near the Kendall Road intersection. There was follow-up at the last select board meeting that maybe that wasn't adequate or enough work to have been done. So that led to a meeting with myself, the highway foreman, Selectmen Hooker and Mills, and Dennis Carroll of Almia on site. And the conversation kind of quickly morphed into a discussion of this possible siting of the Florence Fire Substation. We had been looking at a parcel that Almia owns further west on Whipple Hollow Road, known as the old McCullough property. And the conversation kind of went, what about this spot across from Joel Robbins at the bottom of the Kendall Hill Road and at that intersection as a possible site, as an alternative. So since then, I've pulled the old lister's card, which doesn't really apply much because there was a house on it at that time, but it's a starting point to kind of help us figure out what the value of that 2-acre, 1.9 acre parcel might be without a house on it, and that might be the basis for us to approach Almia about a possible purchase. We're going to be asking the listers for some help, helping us figure out what the reasonable value of that lot would be without a house on it. Railroad crossing work on Whipple Hollow Road. Vermont Rail plans to do repairs of some of the panels at the two railroad crossings near Almia West for a period of 10 to 12 hours on Sunday, October 13th. This will require a Whipple Hollow Road closure in that area and detour with flaggers in place to direct traffic. So that's a one-time, quick, hopefully low-impact shot on a Sunday, a week from Sunday, on the 13th. The town's annual external audit took place from Monday, September 16th through Thursday, the 19th. There will be some follow-up work via phone calls and emails, and we await and have actually received some input from our auditor about bottom lines for each of the funds at the end of the fiscal year. The audit report will eventually be delivered along with a presentation from Sullivan and Powers here before the select board with their findings at a select board meeting. The fall issue of the town's quarterly newsletter was delivered to the postmaster on the 26th, and I think everybody should have gotten their copy by now. In it, there was a discussion of a good concert that took place Saturday, September 8th at 3 o'clock from Satin and Steel. And I just wanted to remind everybody that that was a carryover from Pittsford Day, which got washed out. And we wanted to remind everybody that that was through the generosity of Almia, who underwrote that concert. And so we appreciate that. The the VLCT annual town fair event began today and will continue tomorrow, with several staffers and 2 selectmen expected to be in attendance tomorrow to learn about various topics of interest to local government. In fact, I believe both Helen and Liz will be attending tomorrow, and so the clerk's office will be closed tomorrow. As we briefly discussed during the orders, I've learned that there will be no permit needed for the transfer station roof project from the Department of Environmental Conservation. However, there will be a need to obtain a town permit. More on that tonight's agenda in terms of fee or permit fee. And we also will need the approval of the Department Division of Fire Safety. We've sent out an application last week as soon as we heard about that requirement, after we asked them about it, because we wanted not to get into anybody's bad zone. We wanted to make sure we told everybody who might have a permitting interest in it, because there's lots of eyes everywhere. Litigation subpoena compliance. There is a 3-way franchise lawsuit pending between truck manufacturers and retailers. One of the parties has asked the town of Pittsford to supply documents regarding our purchase of the single-axle Western Star truck, and I have complied with that subpoena and sent off documents. I imagine that'll be the end of it, but stay tuned, they might want further information. Cell tower notice. The town has received a 60-day notice of the planned request by Singular Wireless for permission of the state's Public Utility Commission to erect a cell tower on the Oxbow Road property of Kit and Lillian Hudson. The town doesn't have much role in that proceeding, but if anyone's interested in seeing the notice, feel free. I'd be happy to share it with you. Interviews took place today in this conference room with 5 of the most promising candidates to seek employment with the town's water and wastewater departments. This recruitment effort is part of a succession planning exercise that recognizes that Bruce Babcock will be retiring next spring, and we need to make sure that we're ready and fully staffed to carry the ball going forward in his absence, with Sean Hendy presumably stepping up into Bruce's role and now looking for somebody who can split time between water and sewer, and perhaps do some support of the highway department with a CDL snow plowing license as well. The folks on the Proctor Select Board, at least 1 or 2 of them, Carrie Doherty is someone who emailed me asking to be on the agenda for the October 16th meeting to discuss policing. And so stay tuned for that discussion. I don't know too much more about it than that, other than maybe they'd be interested in talking about coverage from the Pittsford PD. There is an email in tonight's packet, I think, from a gentleman saying thank you on behalf of the state's K-9 unit. He asked that I let the public know that they appreciate us being the host community for their activities. Good afternoon, John. Thanks for taking the time to meet this morning. Thank you for being willing to read this tonight. We greatly appreciate it. The Vermont Police K-9 training program has been based in Pittsford at the Police Academy for over 30 years. We have used Pittsford's trails, parks, sidewalks, and occasional unplanned lawns for years. Several townspeople have given us permission to use their personal properties as well. We just wanted to say thank you to the residents of Pittsford for your patience and understanding when we are out in your town. We truly appreciate it. And that's from Dave Dewey from Colchester PD, and an assistant K-9 instructor and the events director with the Vermont Police K-9 Association. So that's always nice to get a thank you. One other police item. Several of our police officers are going to be growing beards, with Angie doing it symbolically, in support of Camp Tecumseh, which is a program that helps children with cancer or who have had cancer get away and have some stress-free, kind of challenging fun in a good, healthy environment. And so if anybody wishes to donate to a worthy cause like this, feel free to reach out to Chief Warfel or Lieutenant Pratico. I think each of the officers who are doing the beard growing exercise will be each donating $50 themselves, and the event will be running from October 1st through December 1st. And again, just in a nutshell, Camp Tecumseh provides challenging, extraordinary experiences in a safe and loving environment for children who have or who have had cancer and their families. The camp exists for Vermont and northern New York children at no cost to their families. So that is that, with the exception of me pointing out that I'll be out of the office Friday, October 4th, and Monday and Tuesday, October 7th. And of course, a little bit later, the town offices will be closed Monday the 14th in observance of Columbus Day.
Thank you, Don. Do we have any select board remarks from anybody?
Well, I will say that our Facebook page now has over 250 people following it, so hopefully we'll get more people, but if anybody, so now we are 250 people are seeing it on a regular basis, so if anybody has anything they want me to share on there, just let me know.
Fantastic.
Beautiful. Do we have any public comment this evening? Hearing none, we'll go on to old business. Update on the tax sale process.
Yes, this won't take too long. We just wanted to point out that There were 11 parcels that met our town policy as to the folks who we do need to place into a tax sale situation. 2 of those have already resolved following letters from me. People maybe just overlooked their tax bill or had other priorities that they had put this aside about. So that leaves 9. There's a couple of the parcels that may be resolved through a sale of some land next week. So, as is always the case, there'll be plenty of opportunities to work things out before an actual tax sale occurs, which is probably going to take place as usual in December of this year.
Is that more than last year? I thought it seemed like it was more than this
We
year.
always start with about a dozen, I'd have to say,
Was
and usually we get compliance with several
Most
of
of them.
those before it goes much further. Then we send it off to the lawyer, and then the lawyer starts the process after a few weeks of title searching. And then often when the lawyer sends letters notifying these people, that gets their attention. And then ultimately, some people will do it as the tax sale is pending in the next few days. And then ultimately, people still have a year after the tax sale to redeem their property. It just means that they've had to pay some legal fees and costs and some interest on top of it.
Okay. Consider waiving the town permit for the transfer.
Yeah, this would be a
Station.
situation where the town would basically be paying itself to get a permit to go forward with our planned transfer station roof project. So we do need,
Well, we
since
need a
we're not
motion.
exempt from that permit
We would-
requirement, we need a motion
we
to
need a
exempt
motion to
or to
exempt it.
waive the fee.
I'll make the motion.
We have a motion, we have a second? We have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it.
Great, thank you.
Consider, we're going to new business now, making budget transfers from the general fund to the water fund.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, as some of the longer-serving selectmen will recall, we've for many years had something called a hydrant fee, which the general fund has paid to the water fund as a way of kind of compensating the water fund for the existence of hydrants in town, providing fire protection and for any costs associated with maintaining and servicing them. When we did the water system upgrade about 10 years ago, we increased the amount by the proportion of the number of new hydrants that were added to the
Right.
system. And generally speaking, that has meant that since, for the last 10 years, there's been a $35,000 transfer each year from the general fund to the water fund. That has been cut back in the last few years to $25,000. And once or twice in recent memory, the town has withheld that on the theory that the general fund balance was a little low and we didn't feel we could comfortably make that transfer without removing some safety net in terms of future contingencies in the general fund. We didn't want to go below a certain number. And so we find ourselves now in a sort of a gray area where we have a surplus this year in the general fund either way. The question is how big it's going to be. If you make the budgeted transfer, I think that reduces the surplus from in the general neighborhood. Well, I don't even have to do that. I can tell you what the numbers are from the email from Chad. Yeah. Excuse me. Okay. We started the year in the general fund with a $70,000 fund balance. And the current year profit or surplus in the general fund now stands at $43,000 without making that transfer. So if we don't make the transfer, the general fund balance would bulk up to $113,000. If, however, we make the $25,000 transfer, it would leave us with more on the tune of $88,000 as a general fund balance. Those are just rough numbers. So that's really the question before us.
It's- I would think.
Is there anything that needs help more than that?
The water fund's in pretty good shape as compared with the sewer fund, which is not.
Right.
So it's not like the water department is desperate for it, but you could argue that since that's the budget, and since the budget was approved by the voters, transparency might dictate making the transfer, because that was the plan, unless you feel that you'd rather bulk up the general fund by not making it.
Well,
So,
wonder-
go ahead.
So, but also, wasn't it, Chad had suggested also using some of it to pay off some, like to cut, like bring down some other deficits?
Well, there's other issues that he has raised, and we
Yeah.
can certainly talk about that, and I intend to with you and with Chad at budget season in the next month or two. The only thing I think that's hanging out there as a loose end
He thought last year we
is
should
that
have paid
transfer.
it. Yeah, last year he kind of
What,
slapped our
continued
hand,
he
yeah.
said should have continued
If
the
it's voted, he
25?
said you really should be putting it in there. If I stand corrected, correct
I
me.
mean, there's
but-
two ways to look at it. Once, yes, the budget's been approved by the voters, and you maybe want to honor those wishes, right?
Yep,
Another is that the voters elected you to use your good judgment
Oh, yeah.
on behalf
That's-
of them.
that's one
on these
reason we
matters.
held it back for, I think, 2 years.
I
maybe?
think
Once or
our, I think
twice.
our
It's,
fund is rather on the slim side,
It is, so maybe
so
we
I
should
would say
hold
no.
it. Let's maybe should hold it one more year and see what happens.
I have just one question. So essentially, what you're doing is you're taking money out of the general fund,
Mhm,
which is everybody's money,
mhm.
And putting
and
it back.
subsidizing the water users.
Because of the
It's-
protection that the fire hydrants have given throughout the town.
Throughout the town.
And the argument also is that it brings people's insurance costs down to
Yeah.
have good fire protection throughout the town.
Well, that's okay, but there are a number of people in town that don't have any fire hydrants
Yeah.
anywhere near them.
That's certainly
So
true.
you're, I mean, I'm just
That's true.
devil's advocate. You're asking,
No, but what happens there though is we go to those hydrants and truck that water from those hydrants to say your farm that doesn't have hydrant system, that's where we're getting the water from. That's kinda, we're paying the water department back for use of that water
For
in
use.
the hydrants. That's,
okay, well.
that's
I'm
the
just-
theory of that.
That's the, okay.
yeah,
So everybody
because
has access
everybody
in
has
theory
to
to
pay
the
for water
hydrants.
that, when we're fighting fires. So
would
that's-
it create any problems to wait until we get further into our budget
Yeah, we could do that
before
later,
we
yeah.
make this
Well,
decision?
You can do that, and I think he has said there's additional time to do that, but I don't think we're gonna have any additional information about the past
current year,
fiscal year.
yeah.
Right.
The past fiscal year closed
Yeah,
on
yeah,
June
yeah.
30th, so I
Right.
don't know of a reason why you wouldn't wanna make that decision, but.
Well, both the highway funds and general funds are on the slim side.
They're not overly,
And I think we've dug into that, to pay other bills over the years, and I think it's time to
gotta build them back up a
move
little
them
bit.
back up a little bit.
We don't know what kind of winter we're gonna have either.
That's true.
Hard.
Yeah, I would say let's leave it alone for now. You can always do it later if you have to.
That seem like a good solid consensus here?
I don't know if we need a vote, but if you wanna vote, we will, but
The general
Consensus.
consensus.
general
Yeah, I would
consensus, I'd say leave it alone.
Leave it alone right now, as
For
long as the
now.
water's healthy.
Yep,
Yeah.
they're healthy.
Yep, very good. Thank you, I'll pass it on to Chad, and I think that will allow him to kind of close
There,
his books
that'll,
on that.
yeah,
Okay.
cause he was on us last year.
Okay.
Okay, approval of the listers got an omission or
Yes,
correction?
they presented me with this, and it's in tonight's packet. Toward the back. It says, "We wish to inform you that in checking reports, we found 5 parcels that have village tax assigned to them that are not in the village. The village tax is
Yeah.
represented
That's
by...
not you.
The village tax is represented by a number 3 in the tax codes in their NIMRIC software, NIMRIC system. We have removed that number in tax rates for 5 parcels. So they're basically just notifying you that a property in Fire Hill, on Butler Lane, on West Creek Road, on Goat Farm Road, and Winslow Lane should not properly be charged as village residents, and they're just letting us know about that. The clerk thought that we should inform you and have you okay that before those bills are printed.
Oh,
How did they ever get
Good
off
question.
the record, or how'd they get?
I know they're pretty far out of the
Yeah,
village,
they're
every
pretty
single
far.
one of those.
Oh, yeah.
It's not, I asked him if it was like a marginal call, are they, you know, on Arch Street, a little bit outside?
Yeah,
No, these are way far
Wait,
flung.
wait.
So I don't know how that was discovered or how it came to be, but they're trying to fix it.
Do we need a motion to do that? I guess we
I think
probably
Helen would
should.
like you to have the, give an okay, whatever
Yeah.
that means.
So, entertain a motion to.
So moved.
We have a
Second.
motion, second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? There you go,
I have
Dan.
Fire Hill, Goat Farm Road, Winslow Lane, Butler Lane.
West Creek Road.
West Creek Road.
The parcels are 1890.
Dave Dave
Okay,
just gave
good.
yours, thank you.
Sure.
Nowhere near the village.
Nowhere near the village, no.
No,
No. And the last item we have on the agenda is the release of a bond, which is,
Yes.
On Elm Street?
Patricia Rose gave us a $1,000 bond when she was looking at putting in a new, I think, sewer service line, which impacted the sidewalk and a little bit of Elm Street. And the road, that project's been done. They brought in the asphalt and made repairs, and Chad Ujer took a look at it as he is supposed to do, and he has approved the work that was done, and therefore there's no reason to continue to hold on to that bond. We can release it
okay,
with your consent and your signature as chair of the board.
very good. So we need a motion though.
I think
So
so.
moved.
Yeah. In a second?
Second.
We have motion second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Carries. We thank everybody for coming this evening.
Yeah.
We'll take a short 5-minute break.
Yeah, and I think we were gonna have to hear from Lisa Wright
Oh, okay.
in executive session.
All right, so Lisa can stay. We'll be right back.